you know anything about duo?
Yes.
You do? Okay. So Leah and I did our first duo. I'll answer your question later. Leah and I did our first duo in my sophomore year again, so I picked up 2 new events that year. And it was on a play called The Sherlock Holmes Were Woman. And it was funny, and we tried doing all these kooky characters, and Leah had a really good time. She played a hypochondriac, and so she was sniffling and sneezing, and it was really great. And it was really good learning year for how to work together and put a piece together, because we hadn't done that before in speech and debate, and it taught us a lot of teamwork that we pulled into the next year. Because the year after that, we did a somber, more of a dramatic piece called It Is Well With My Soul. So it was the story behind the hymn, It Is Well With My Soul. And it was about this mom and the dad and their kids, and how all their kids died in a shipwreck, and how he writes the hymn, It Is Well With My Soul. And we were able to really work on that piece. It was the first time I had learned that you can impact an audience with your humor, with a piece of literature, that you could take this and put it to life and touch people with it. And because I think Leah and I really understood that year, we did really well with it. We got first in the national tournament, and that was a really big blessing to us.
You got first in nationals?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
So it really taught us a lot when we did that duo, because I had never before thought that I could send a message through an interpretation or touch people, but by doing that I learned so much. And so this last year when we did our duo, Lee and I wanted to step it up and do something that would be really challenging to us. So we chose the piece Animal Farm, and we were acting out pigs and chickens and all different stuff, and we still wanted to have a good message with it, because Animal Farm has a really strong message. And we still wanted to have that conveyed. So we were trying to learn this balance of doing humorous, but also having the message come through, and we worked really hard at doing that. So I feel like it was our best piece for us doing this event, even though we didn't do as well in it at the tournament. So
And also, really quite an impressive piece.
Oh, thank you. And also, all of those are online on YouTube. So we have the It Is Well With My Soul, we have the Animal Farm, and some of our other pieces are on YouTube too. So if you guys want to check those out, you can just.
And if we have time, we're going to be looking at one of them today to display what a duo looks like. All right, so after that big overview, we're going to be looking at choosing a piece, because this is the foundation of what you'll be doing. If you don't have a good piece, you cannot have a good interpretation of the piece. Everything is based on the piece that you choose. So choosing the right piece is huge and important to how your event will do if you're competing.
Oh, it's mine.
So finding a piece. What you really want to do is start early. Start now when looking for a piece. You need to allow yourself time to read and browse through selections of books. And if you allow yourself time, you'll also allow yourself the opportunity to be picky, because certain books will be better for an interpretation event. And we'll be going through what to look for when you're trying to find a piece in this lecture. So what Lee and I have taken to doing is starting a list. I keep a list on my phone, or you can keep a notebook in your purse. My mom keeps a notebook in her purse of things. If you have an idea jump into your head, oh, I'd like to find a piece like this. Or you remember a book all of a sudden, you're like, that could work. So you just keep a list, and then you can, when you're trying to find the right piece for you, you can look back over that list and see if it works out. Also, as you're reading books throughout the year, add it to your list. Often, when I was doing schoolwork, I would think of a book, or I'd read a book, or Leah would read a book from schoolwork and doing homework that would fit into an interpretation event. There was an event called storytelling, and I had to choose a story, and I had actually used it from a book that I read for school, and it turned out to be a great piece for storytelling. Along with this, check your favorite books. Look over the past books that you've read and think of the ones that were your favorite. They were your favorite for a reason. You enjoyed them and they impacted you. So they might, your audience might enjoy them, and they might impact your audience. Also, read smart. It's really hard for me because looking for a book to do an interpretation event on can seem super daunting if you don't read smart. You need to be able to scan through books looking for that story and use your familiar, whoa, I can't say that word. Just try and speed up the process with your familiarity. There we go. I'm sorry, my mouth isn't working today. Also, don't be afraid to look at the synopsis of a book before picking it up. A synopsis will give you the general plot, and this can be really helpful when you're addressing books that you want to look at. I took a class on different reading techniques and such, and one of the things that they taught us was to look through the book, and don't read the entire book, but look at the chapters, look at the introduction, look at the back of the book, and you can get a really good sense of what the book's about and how it's going to go and be played out if you look at these things. So you don't need to read the book to get a better understanding of it, and that will save you a ton of time. Also, skimming books will be really helpful. So you don't need to read the entire book, but if you're familiar with it and skim through it, it'll be better and it'll take less time for you. So if you've read the book before, don't be afraid to just skim it and get a better understanding of it. Along with this, if you're having a really hard time finding books in general, you can look at the classics. The classics are really great. Classics and medal winners are respected when you're doing an interpretive event because they are good. Usually they're good stories, and they're classics because we love them and they're great and they'll impact an audience automatically. So along with this, also have quality of literature, which is something that judges are looking for when they'll be looking at your piece. Along with this, though, I have to make a side note that you should stay away generally from archaic diction. So if something is in Old English or it's really hard to understand, like Shakespeare or things of that nature, if you're trying to make that into a piece, it's really hard because it takes the audience much more time to understand what you're saying. And so it takes a really, really skilled actor to be able to portray this. And usually pieces don't do as well if they have archaic diction. I had a friend in speech and debate, and she did The Scarlet Letter. And she was fantastic with her acting. I helped her out, and when she did it, it was like watching a movie. I could see all the details, and it was great. But the problem she had was that it did have archaic diction, and because I was familiar with the piece, I understood it. But for judges that didn't know the piece or hadn't worked with her before, they had a really hard time understanding what she was saying. And that posed a really great problem for her, and it really discouraged her because she wasn't doing as well as she could have. Along with this, take time to browse. You need to look at libraries, bookstores, and on the web to find good pieces. There are a lot of good websites that you can look at to find books that will be beneficial to you. I found my humorous interpretation on the audition on the web, and my mom and I ordered the play. So that is really helpful, and that's you have a lot more options that way. Additionally, don't be afraid to look at short stories. I know one person who did a humorous interpretation. He took a child's book and he made it a humorous interpretation. It was short and it didn't have too much, but he made it this great thing. And I think he won 2 years ago with that piece. It was based on a child's book. Additionally, Leah's story, Desiree's Baby, one of her dramatic interpretations, it was a short story. It was only 3 pages long, but she had enough material to have depth. So you see, just because it's a short story doesn't mean it's lacking depth or things that you can work with. So you can look at short stories and they can be great. And along with that, they're easier to cut because they are shorter. Read plays too. Plays are really great because the audience and the dialogue is already built in. So when you're looking to formulate your script, it's much easier because a lot of the work's already done for you. Alright, now the last kind of option that you have is to do it yourself. If you're really good at writing, you can write your own story, but we advise against this, and this is only for open interpretation. You can write it yourself, but that poses a lot of problems, and usually they don't do as well. When I was in storytelling at Used to Be an Event, I wrote one of my own storytelling pieces, and it was okay, but I could have done much better if I had chosen a well thought out story and not written it myself. So, we told you to scan through pieces, look, but what are you looking for? This will help you look through your books and figure out what's good and what's not, what to keep and what to let go of. So first off, conciseness. If there's a plot in the book that will be dragging or forced or crammed or rushed, it may not be as good for an interpretive piece. So what you're looking for is, can I fit this amount of material into 10 minutes? Is it that short? Is it that concise with still having detail? Along with this, you need to make sure that what you're looking to put into your piece has a clear beginning, middle, and end. If it doesn't have this, it will feel disjointed. So you can even take a part of a big book, but it just needs to have this sequence of events. Along with this, you should probably be working with the same cast, the same characters throughout your piece. So you don't want to have this big switch between one character for half of it and then the other character for the other half. You need to have main characters and the same cast throughout the piece. Along with this is something that most people don't realize when they're looking for an interpretive event, but this is really important to note. You see, you need to allow your audience to discover something. Your piece needs to be enticing. So if they can't discover anything, they're going to be sitting there kind of bored. This will give your piece intrigue. Along with this, you want to carry the audience with you for the entire 10 minutes. So you need to ask yourself, will this be interesting to watch, not just read? That was kind of the problem I encountered when I tried to do a humorous interpretation the first time. It was really fun to read, but acting it out was much of a harder process. And that piece wasn't as good for the event because it was easier to read than watch. So, additionally, you want to be looking for good characters. So, these characters need to be dynamic. When we're watching your piece, we want to have somebody that we can sympathize with, a complex character, something that will intrigue our minds. So if you have dynamic characters, that helps a lot. Additionally, having sympathetic characters will give the audience something to fight for. If you don't like the main character, you're going to be like, fine, he failed, it doesn't matter. But if you are sympathetic to him and you relate to the character, it'll bring your audience in, and it will give you more of an impact with your piece. Additionally, the main character should usually be unselfish, while villains can be incredibly selfish. So keep that in mind. This is something that's really unique and often isn't talked about when what to look for in a piece. There's this concept called shelving. Now, that's where you take different elements and you kind of bring it back in your piece. It's similar to foreshadowing in a sense. It's where you take one piece, maybe you take the end scene and you give a little taste of it in the beginning. It's something that intrigues the audience mind, and if you can picture shelving in your piece, it will help you. It's more of an interesting piece and it's better to choose. So there was one duo that I watched where it was on Corey Ten Boom, and they did this scene where she is being arrested, but they did it in silence for the first minute of the piece, and everyone was watching them because it was silent. They're seeing these people act, and then at the very end, they did the scene with the actual dialogue, and you remember it from before, and it created this really great sense of intrigue. So if you can picture shelving into your piece, that might be a good piece to choose. Additionally, stories that meander or give a lot of irrelevant material are weak. So if it's a piece that has just a lot of side notes and things like that, it doesn't have too much that you can build with it, then it's not a good piece. So reversely that, keep what is relevant. So what you're looking for is a specific plot line. And if something doesn't fit into that, it won't fit into your piece. So what you're really looking for is for a good plot line, all the relevant material. Additionally, in a different sense of relevance, you want to pick something that will be impactful to your audience. Will your audience care about what you're going to be talking about? Will it touch them? Does it have themes they can relate to? All these things are important because the more your audience can relate to the piece, the more impactful it will be to them. And we're trying to say something to them. So if they can relate to it, it gives you a much easier time. There we go. Along with this, consider how much dialogue is built into the piece. So when you're reading the piece, scanning it, look for how much there is between two different characters. If it's a lot of narration, that can pose a problem because you're going to have to turn narration into dialogue. But if there is more dialogue into it, it's better for an interpretive event because that's what you'll be saying. The narration usually talks about the action, and so you want more dialogue in a piece if you're looking for an interpretive event. Additionally, your piece will need movement. Because you're performing in front of people, you need to have some sort of action to your piece. You want to be displaying something. So you need movement. you need something to translate into the interpretive event. So if you're standing in the middle of the room and you're one character and you don't move, it's pretty boring to watch. But if you are acting out all these different things, it's more intriguing to the audience and it will keep their attention longer. Additionally, uniqueness is important. A lot of people will forget that they'll choose an old piece and it won't be new, or it can kind of be cliche, and that is not as interesting for an audience to watch because they've seen it before, they know it. Last year in the SOA League, I think 4 people did A Christmas Carol as a duo or a different event, and it kind of got repetitive. It wasn't new, and it hurt all of them because other people were doing it. So look for something that's unique and new. And lastly, you need to pick something that you love. If you're going to be doing this for the entire season, you want to love it because you're going to be saying something. If you're passionate about this piece and you think, I want to tell my audience this, I want to show them this story, I want to tell them about this, then it will make practicing so much easier. You should pray and really think about what's going to happen with this piece. If it's something you love, you'll put the effort in and it'll become something beautiful. But if you don't like it, then it doesn't have the same impact. Now, as I talked about earlier, with the different events, you're going to be looking for different pieces. With dramatic interpretation, you need a piece that has exposes relevant issue and or life-changing event, has a somber tone. You want something that's going to really pull the judge's heartstrings and show them something. Now, because you guys focus on realistic acting, you need to look and see if this piece can be portrayed in a realistic way. You need realistic characters and realistic struggles. If it doesn't fit this, it won't do as well in dramatic interpretation. You all have this?
No.
Okay. Just flag me down if I'm going too fast. Because I tend to, I'm sorry guys. You all have it? No. No? Okay. Are all good? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to go too fast.
Yeah,
It's
it's
so
just
tight.
hard when there's a lot of stuff to write
Yeah.
down.
Okay, so it's like,
So not all the times,
okay.
like when there's a lot to write down. One part,
I'm so excited to talk and then I get too fast. So,
okay.
right. So, contrasting dramatic interpretation and humorous interpretation. What do you need to look for this event? Obviously, you need the humor to come from the piece, not necessarily the acting. And this is where I tripped up before. Your piece needs to be inherently funny for this to work. Acting and character portrayal should add to the story, not carry it. So when a lot of people will try and make an event and they'll try and add the humor in, they'll do funny gestures and things like that. But if it has it built in, it will carry your piece much better and it'll give you a lot less work to do. So built-in comedic timing is important as well. When we talk about acting, we'll be addressing this whole issue of comedic timing and how that plays in. All right, open interpretation. So, unless you are a phenomenal writer, don't write your own story, as I said before. And just because it's not labeled humorous or dramatic doesn't mean your piece should not have impact. It does not have impact. So if your piece isn't either one of those, it's not strongly one way or the other, it can still have an impact, and it might fit very well in open interpretation because of that. So what you're looking for in open interpretation is just a really good piece, and one that maybe you need to add a few more words than the other events would allow for. Now, similarly with duo interpretation, you need to look at whether you can picture this piece having movement and synchronization, because those are the key things for this category. What people are looking for is a good story and good interaction between two people. So when Lee and I did Animal Farm, we were looking at it thinking, what can we do with this piece? Will it have enough synchronization and movement to it to portray a good duo? And it did, because we thought of the chickens are doing things, and there's a fight scene, and all this stuff, so it gave a lot of action and a lot of a good foundation for creativity in these ways.
pieces.